And can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. A little bit of housekeeping. Discussion number 6. I enjoyed so much reading all your comments. By far has been the discussion with the most participation. I mean, you guys were talking and corresponding with each other and responding to each other's comments like you have never done before. Apparently, this was a topic that was very interesting to most of you, which I'm glad that it happens to be that way. One of the things that I wanted to bring out of that conversation is that while Intel is doing a great service to the public in general, if we look at it from the point of view, the computer science application, the management information systems, and you go back and look at what we describe on the first chapters of our classes. Remember when we were talking about processors and when we were talking about Moore's law. Moore's law basically says, and now it's trying to be debunked by other people, is how many millions of transistors they can put in a processor. Remember that. Well, all Intel is doing is demonstrating that they can produce a piece of equipment for a computer that can process information so fast and so accurately that they're defying the capacity of anybody out there. That is why they are on top of the world as far as the number one producer of uh, processors for computing power. If you think about it, every time they look at the genome code and they're trying to do the work of the interactions to determine that deciphering, that mapping that they're doing, they need an incredible amount of speed. On top of that, you add capacity to store. We saw that they're describing 70 petabytes of capacity in order to uh, store everything that they're producing as far as the data that they're coming up with. Any computer that has a slow processor is going to be bogged down by the processor, by the memory, and by storage device. The processor is going to be the one dictating the pace on the storage. That's why Intel is so important on this documentary or this video that we saw, is because they're showcasing their capacity to produce equipment and technology that now interfaces with our biology and our human work to determine everything that they have available. So it's so important to understand that yes, they're doing great work, but on the context of everything that we've been doing for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks now, think about it. It's coming to a piece of technology, hardware that somebody's producing to work with, and somebody's making the best out of it to get what we want done. In this case is Intel. If I were to bring the other chip manufacturer, AMD, they are going to tell you not in the same terms, because I don't think AMD is as advanced in the or as invested in the medical field as Intel is, but AMD is going to claim their great capacity for graphics and user interfaces of that nature. So everybody has a point. Everybody has a lot of options available out there. But at the same time, don't forget the only reason these companies exist is to make money, and they are making money. Not only us as consumers, but major corporations who is buying equipment like that hospital system that is buying equipment, servers, computers, so they can handle this type of work. Now, computers, if you heard me said at the beginning, computers used to turn around once a year, every 2 years, every 3 years, when from the infancy of the computer applications. Now we have systems that are turning up and changing over every 6 months or less. That's the kind of work that we're seeing with microprocessors and with the lights of Intel and how they're doing different things out there. So yes, it was a great video. It was great to see the interaction between all of you and how everybody took it to heart, and everybody. I was very glad to see the conversations going on. Uh, And I was glad that all of you were thinking on the terms, is brand new technology applied to a field that some of us didn't know anything about it. Some of you may know something about it. Great. Technology is applied everywhere today. As Sergio says in the chat, yes, they are saving time and money. Yes, they are. Because of the application today, as many of you put it on your conversations, if this was to be available to everybody out there that is suffering of cancer, it will be an incredible tool. Unfortunately, today's business is behaving a very different manner, but we can only hope that things keep going this way and keep being incorporated into our everyday life, because it will be a lifesaver and money saver for everybody. Your projects, remember, they're due next week. Keep working on them. Don't slow down. I need to have your projects before class. Make sure you send them to me. That is your homework, label homework number 8. So in other words, for the whole 8-week period, you're gonna have 5 homework assignments. This one is labeled homework number 8, just because of the way I label it like that. But turning it in, your presentation and your homework to me, that is homework number 8. I need your presentations at the same time, because what we're gonna do to save time and effort in here is you are going to give me your presentations and your work. And when you give me your presentations, I'm going to share the screen with your presentation. I'm going to allow you to start talking and presenting. And you're telling me when you want to move forward on your slide. That way we can control it, and it's not decide to do anything else but to facilitate the way we're going to operate the presentations. If you have any questions, please email me. Let me know if you have questions or concerns. Now, the other thing, remember the topics that we were discussing, all those 6 topics that we had in there in the conversations for the companies: metadata, statistical work, um, hosting, so on and so forth. When you bring your company and you start working on the paper of your company, not only you're focusing on all the topics that I ask you to discuss about, Porter's 5 models, the triangle, the cascade effect, so on and so forth, but you must focus your work and your presentation on the type of topic that they have. I said, for example, if your company is a web hosting company, that means that their primary model for doing business is providing internet access, hosting companies, hosting sites. So that's how they're gonna make a living. If your company is a retail shop and they are in the business of making money, well, how are they making money in there? Well, they're selling. Well, they're also producing. They have a store and they have this and they have online sales and retail sales and all this good stuff. Great. What is the topic that they make their business plan, the business model on? Is it gaining competitive advantage? Is it statistical advantage? No, it's gaining the competitive advantage. It's a retail business. But if you tell me you went and found the a company like Experian who uh, handles all your handles credit information, then you will have to say, okay, they're dealing with the statistical data and human data in order to come up with credit bureau reports and so on and so forth. Then that will be the topic. Just focus on that topic because that's how you're going to present and that's how you're going to focus on your company. It's not just picking a company and presenting on it. It's actually going and actually identifying what is the field of work that this company is working with you. Again, if you have any questions, email me and let me know. That way we can clarify that ahead of time. You probably have received at this point a notification by the university, and I'm mentioning it again because they asked me to mention. Evaluations on this course are now available. Please take 5-10 minutes, whatever you want, and answer the questions regarding the class and how you perceive the class for you. Has it been of any value or not? Is greatly appreciated. All the feedback that we receive is taken to heart, and we do listen to and look into it on how to make things better for all of us. Not only the instructors, but for you, the student that is investing time, effort into pursuing your career, your professional development. So please take some time and complete those evaluations. Now, chapter 12, the ethical and legal implications of systems. This is a chapter that begins with a topic that can be obscure for many issues that we talk about. Well, it's not obscure, but it's different and it's not something that we discuss all the time because we know it and because we know it's there. It's called ethics. We say we have cuts of ethics. We say, what is ethics? What is this concept? Well, the book describes it as a set of moral principles or the principles of conduct governing an individual or a group. That is the general definitions. It's been around since the dawn of civilization. And it's something that is being part of everything we do. But what does it have to do with information systems? Because ethics is so intertwined with our everyday life. The introduction of technologies and especially new technologies have a profound effect on human behavior. Best example I can give you is social media today, or the famous coin term, the keyboard warriors. People that can actually attack, destroy people with a keyboard, the way they type or what they type. Because unfortunately, information systems have created a concept that people will hide under or behind the screen, behind the login application, behind the name that is provided for their login. Many times we don't log in with our names. Sometimes we don't even use our own pictures. We use avatars and so on and so forth. So these new technologies are giving us capabilities that we never had before, and it's creating environments and situations that have never been addressed in an ethical context. We all know about bullying because it's something that happens on our everyday life, assuming that we're not 100% of the time connected to a telephone or to a computer or in a computer room and so on and so forth. But bullying has also been around for as long as mankind has been around. There's always one person on top of another person, one person pushing another person. But now we have a new realm. This technology has brought up a new realm in which people are attacking other people by using the technology. This has never been experienced before. And now is the kind of epidemic proportions. It's all over the place and it's almost impossible to control short of unplugging yourself from anything. And you can tell somebody, well, somebody's attacking you online. That's simple. Don't answer. Don't open up. Turn it off. Don't even bother to go there. Unfortunately, that is easier said than done because our lives are so intertwined with these new technologies, especially the social media issues. People feel compelled to be there. People feel that they have to share everything they have and they don't have. People feel that they can criticize what you are doing and you're not doing. The ethics in here comes in is those moral principles or principles of conduct governing the individual or the group. How much are you telling? How much are you willing to say? How much are you willing to attack somebody because you feel wrong? That's why ethics in management information systems has taken a new route. It's there, it's always there, and we should always be governed by it. It's add one more layer to our everyday life because now we're so intertwined with it. So we say that digital technologies has given us the abilities to aggregate information from multiple sources. True, digital information is now available from everywhere. A simple information that we have at home, if we have a Facebook or an Instagram or a TikTok account, we are gathering information on all three, and we can aggregate that information into a set of people for ourselves, for them, against ourselves, against them. What it used to take weeks to do now can be done in seconds. And of course, governments are doing the same thing. Governments have using the same tools to collect information on people, and thus the issue with privacy and private institutions and governmental institutions infringing on the privacy of the consumer and the citizen. So we have to know, we have to understand ethics are with us, ethics govern our lives, but it's not going to be somebody telling you all day long, you have to do something because else. No, we know they exist and they govern our social interaction. At work, in many instances in technology, specifically in our offices, we are governed by specific rules, specific guidelines, so to speak. People have been developing this in order to ease up this so-called minefield of connectivity. It's called a code of ethics. a way to navigate these new waters. In other words, we are outlining acceptable behavior for a professional or social group. And of course, is agreed upon by all the members of the group. The book mentions a sample that is the Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct of the Association for Computers and Machinery. This is the sample of the Code of Ethics. Let me know if you cannot see it. But it's basically telling us that a group, an association, in this case, computer equipment, computer machinery.
Sir, what you're showing is your email. Your Outlook is what we're looking at right now.
Okay, so let's see this again. How about now?
Now we can see it.
Now you see Code of Ethics?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. So, with the Code of Ethics, this is a sample that you see from a specific group of association or association, in which telling you this is what they design, what they say should be what governs how people that work in computer applications and management information systems do. What is the commitment of them to work with you, or for you to work in a company or in an association like this? Most of us have this kind of information in our offices, not necessarily from the Association for Computing and Machinery, but from our own employers. We all get an employee handbook. We always get an acceptable use of technologies document. Most time we get information like this because they're telling us, do not go this, do not copy this, do not misuse this. You're going to be watched. The network is being secured, so on and so forth. Basically, they're telling us, behave. When you are on the computer, you are on a business computer, you are being watched. Well, yes, we're being watched. We're being told we should not enter another computer system, software, or data files without the owner's permission. We always have to have approval to enter. So remember when we were looking at that concept of approvals to see who could access the system and so on and so forth, and how we can access the system, whether it is by accessibility or by rights? Well, it's basically applying that ethics concept one step forward. The ethics says it's on your own, on your honor, you do this. The document says you will not do this. You cannot do this. You can only access this. This is the information that you have available to you. So programs like this, the Code of Ethics, step into that acceptable use of policies. The university has its own acceptable policy. I don't know if you guys have seen it before. Hope you can see it. I'm sharing right now the University of the Incarnate Word policy of acceptable use of information resources. Can everybody see that? Excellent. This is from the university itself. This is information given to students and to staff alike. Scope. This policy applies to faculty, staff, students, university, contracted employees, so on and so forth. They're telling everybody that works at the university, starts at the university, access the university, has to abide by these terms. So we have ethics and we have a code of conduct, and then we go into an upgraded format that is now the policy of acceptable use of information resources of for the university itself in this case. So when we're talking about these policies that are telling us what to do, what not to do, where to go, where not to go, again, we're being managed, we're being controlled by what is the code of conduct, what is the acceptable behavior. All this is important because the next step that we work with in technology is a boundary that blurs itself quite a bit. Intellectual property. And intellectual property has been impacted very deeply by digital technologies because technology has improved, because technology has expanded so much. People is coming forward and saying, I own that. I claim property on that item that you have digitized. So if you don't step up, if you don't work with this intellectual property, it's very difficult sometimes to defend it. And they define property as ideas, inventions, or process. And everybody knows that the most common item with this is pictures, songs, lyrics, music, shapes, colors, designs, so on and so forth. It's all information that is bound by intellectual property. Somebody owns it, but because digital technologies, we're moving forward and they're becoming part of our mainstream. Well, they do belong to somebody. They do have their ownership of it, unless somebody swipe it from them and claim it before. Sort of a squatters that come in and take over your property and take it away from you. Very common problem on squatters is websites. You have your domain name, your www dot Patriot Guard Riders of South Texas, for example, the group that I work with, PGRSTX. We have a website. I have to maintain it. I run it every year. I have the domain updated. But if I forget to pay for it and somebody has the intention to take it away from me because they see that I'm making money with it, if I delay for one day the update of that, they can take it away from me by creating the name or going to register the name under their name, thus taking the ownership from me. So these are the kind of intellectual property issues that are starting to come out nowadays. And this didn't used to happen before in because technology was not advanced. Most people used to worry about is I wrote that book, why is somebody using their name on my book? Well, their copyright got violated, their rights to ownership got violated. Somebody took credit for the book and is making money on it. Somebody reprinted the music that they were doing and put it under their name or their group's name or the association name. They're violating all this. So the first item that we're going to see is copyright under the intellectual property. Copyright basically attaches to songs, computer programs, books, created works. Anything that has an author can be copyrighted. This means the author of a work controls what can be done with the work. It can be copied. Who can make the copies? The author is telling you this. Who can make changes and derivative works from the original work? Who can perform the work publicly? You hear this all the time when you see people singing on somebody else's music, and then you hear, I never authorized it to be done. Who can display the work? Who can distribute the work? Remember at the beginning, I told you that one of the biggest issues that we had with software was that when Microsoft put out Microsoft Basic 5.0 or Windows for workgroups, by the time it was distributed for the first time in the United States, it was already being copied and resold abroad in Latin America and China. They didn't bother to rewrite it in Spanish or in Chinese. They sold it in English to any market that will buy it. It was a different country, a different organization, violating the copyright and the ownership of Microsoft. Two pieces of software that were literally stolen from them and sold abroad. This is one of the first things that we started to see when these technologies began to evolve. The book talks about ownerships of the items, not by an individual, by publishers, because the author has an agreement with the publisher. Because the publishers agree with the owner to distribute the work, and then they pay the original author a portion of their proceeds. This is some of the options that they have negotiated over there. Copyright protection lasts for life of the original author plus 70 years. So the life of the author plus 70 years. So if the author was 50, he died 70 years later at 120 years from production, that copyright ceases to exist. If the copyright work is owned by a publisher or another third party, the protection lasts for 95 years from the original creation date. Now, if you ask me, somebody's working some shenanigans in here to protect the work of publishers. Because if an individual can only do 50 years, a publisher can do 95. This can always be argued, and it will be argued forever in different locations, and it's been going in court and so on and so forth. So be aware of the fact that somebody owns it. You have the right, you have to have permission to make certain things with it before you do it. Otherwise, you can find yourself in problems because you violated copyrights. And they have different ways you can obtain how you can obtain the copyright protection. Going to the U.S. Copyright Office, register your copyright, and you get the permit to enforce legal action. Fair use. This is a provision within the copyright law. Is limitation on copyright that allows for the use of protected works without prior authorization in a specific cases. For example, a teacher wants to discuss current events in class, copies the copyright news story to be handed out without first getting permission. Fair use also allows the student to quote a small portion in a research paper. You have to be very careful with that because these are things that are not well defined, and what is considered fair and not can be constitute a copyright violation. Fair use is well known, is respected, but it can be challenged, and it can be challenged only by copyright holders that feel that the integrity of their work has been threatened. So don't copyright anything. Don't use fair doctrine, fair use of the, to quote something, making changes to the work saying it was fair use, or use a large amount of the copyright of the document to violate the copyright. So these are options that you must be aware when are working with copyrights. One item that came about technology is now called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Because now we're talking about media, electronic media, the Congress had to pass the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, which basically says now copyright applies into consideration for digital technologies. They have determined that there is two items: the anti-circumvention provision and the safe harbor provision. The anti-circumvention provision is illegal to create technology or circumvent technology that has been put into place to protect the copyright work. The interesting part about the anti-circumvention is that not only you're trying to protect the work, but also it copyrights information describing how to do certain parts of the work. This happens, last time it happened, it was brought up to the fact that Chinese companies were taking materials out of here, and they find out because they were no longer stealing the item to copy it and to distribute it, but they were selling instructions on how to use it. So technology has to step and develop new tools to protect itself. Some exceptions have been allowed, so on and so forth, but it's an interesting concept that you cannot create technology to circumvent technology. What will the typical example of this? Technology used to create something, re-engineer something, because you're circumventing the original format of the technology, making slight modifications, and then sell it as your copyright work, or distribute it, or taking ownership of it. Then they say, well, you can not only that, but you cannot make instructions on how to make that re-engineer work. So that's number one. The safe harbor is now going after online service providers And it says if somebody that is using a service commits copyright infringement, it's limiting the liability of the online service provider. And they basically describe, the book is describing YouTube, that YouTube cannot be held liable when somebody posts a clip from a copyright movie. The online service provider is required to bring action when they are notified of the violation. And that is more or less how YouTube is handling the copyright infringement notification. However, because it's safe harbor, YouTube is saying, hey, I only post the stuff. I'm not policing who owns it. The internet service provider, the online service provider, is the one who does the work. What has been happening in here is people has been bringing up the fact that YouTube is an online service provider, and YouTube is the one that should be held liable because they're allowing the copyright document to be published, therefore taking it away from people ownership. So YouTube came out with a tool they call the YouTube copyright infringement notification. That's why if you ever publish anything on YouTube, especially music or movies, you have to say, I do not own any or part of this music. Most of the time, you have to put parts of the music, not the full amount of the music. Now, how will this apply to somebody that is writing, that is performing a set of music on YouTube that is originally performed by somebody else? Will that be considered a violation of copyright? Can anybody guess to tell me? Obviously not. Most people that go and write something on or reproduce something on YouTube have learned that they give credit to the original artist. So it's an alternative to the original with a slight modification of the music or the tones or the delivery, but is the original theme featured with the presentation of this new person. That's how they are allowed to do it, and that's how they're able to do it. Creative Commons is a nonprofit organization that provides help to artists and authors. It's simple to license artistic or literary work so others can use it, distribute it, and work with it. Um, a lot of people put information online, on the internet, on websites or on YouTube and so on and so forth. And they make modifications. They write music or they write literature or they write something. And they say it's like an open source. Go ahead and use it. Feel free to modify it. Happens a lot with children music. When you go back and read the description of the music, it usually refers to the original author and permissions are given to do this. But what they do is they are also using what is this the Creative Commons license. That way they can actually produce it, work with it at the same time. They are getting protection uh, with the original creators of the documents. They have different types of licenses. They call the CCBY, which means is the least restrictive, and you can distribute and build upon the work, even commercially, as long as they give author credit for the original work. They call CC-BY-SA, restricts distribution of the work via the share like clause. This means that others can distribute and build upon the work, but they must give credit to the author and they must share using the same Creative Commons license. So this one is expanding from the first one. Yes, they can put it out. Yes, they have to get credit, but they must use the same Creative Commons license in order to publish. The CC BY&C is the same as the first one, but has the restriction that no one can make money with this work. NC means non-commercial. So anybody can distribute it, anybody can use it, as long as you get credit to the author, but you cannot make money out of it. The CC, BY, NC, ND is the same as the one we just read, we just saw, but it has the ND restriction, which means that no derivative works may be made from the original. So if you make a game and you put it out and somebody goes and distribute upon the network, the work, because you allowed, they got a common license, that means it's a CC-BY, they're giving you credit. This one, CC-BY, NC, ND, not only says that you can distribute, but you have to give credit. You cannot make money with it. And you cannot make changes and reproduce and distribute items from the original work. So as you can see, this can get rather complicated. All the different options that appeared every time we're doing these copyrights. Then the next item is the patent, which is one more step in the protection of intellectual property, because it's protecting the inventor for new product or a new process. In our case, circuits, design, semiconductors, drug formulas, engines, coding processes, business processes, so on and so forth. Patents are granted, and the inventor has protection from infringing on his or her patent. So basically, the patent is allowing you the permit to write, to create, like it says, and you as a holder, patent holder, have the right to exclude others from making, using, offering for sale, or selling the invention. And is limited to United States. Patents, like copyright, also are limited by time. A US patent lasts 20 years. And the example is given is that's why patents for drugs means that drugs are available as generic after brand name, because 20 years on the patent has passed. So now it's available as a generic drug. The patent is no longer in there. Trademarks. This is when we see the symbol like an apple or the arches for McDonald's. So the trademark can be a word, a phrase, a logo, a shape, a sound that identify the good or services. The Facebook F, the Apple. And you see a lot of people trying to play on words of these items by picking up individual items and making changes or using the different items. Uh, Lindell is saying TM. That's correct. There are two types of trademarks: the common law trademark and the registered trademark. An organization will automatically receive a trademark in a word or phrase or logo that is being used in the normal course of business. So you create your company and you begin using a name, a logo, a phrase, a catchy item. That can be your common law trademark. And Lindell says TM. Well, TM is the definition of a common law trademark. When you put TM next to a trademark item, that means it's a common law trademark. When you have a registered trademark, that means it's been examined, approved, registered with the trademark office, like the Patent and Trademark Office in the United States. You will have a little R or an R, capital R, in a circle. And it's usually right beside the name or the item that you're trying to trademark. Trademark cause all sorts of confusions for people. And people exploit the confusion to expand on their own application of a trademark. Companies try to expand on these trademark issues to take advantage, to get competitive advantage on their competition. Sometimes going to the point that excluding businesses because small items that they say that should be trademark are not considered trademarks. The definition that the trademark is merely descriptive for goods and services, for example. But if you go and try to register something as blue for a blue product you're selling, it will not pass muster. It will not be accepted. If you try to register a trademark as a geographical term, that will not fly either. It will not be accepted. If you try to trade in to put a trademark on a last name to add it to your business, then you also will run into problems because a surname cannot be allowed to be trademarked. In the book, they call it Smith's Bookstore. It cannot be trademarked because it's a surname being used. And the last item they have, the trademark cannot be an ornamental as is applied to the goods. Like if it repeats a flower pattern and it's a design on a plate, it cannot be trademarked. So they have some nuances in here that stop you from saying this is a trademark that will actually stop you from saying you have full ownership of something. So that's where it's important that the trademark is researched and is properly done. If it's a TM trademark, like it was mentioned before, and not a common law trademark, instead of a registered trademark, The registered trademark will hold better if you're trying to defend it. They you have different variances of people playing with words, as I said before. The most common or a big example that we have here is Chick-fil-A defending the trademark phrase "eat more chicken." More is MOR, chicken CHIKIN, and other business have been trying to use something like "eat more kale." More MORE, kale KALE. Eat more chicken and eat more kale is very likely to be confused by people since more is not being read as more, is being heard. Kale and chicken are two different things. However, people tend to hear the first part of the sentence and assume that that's what they want to do and go for it, especially if they don't have full knowledge of the product. Coca-Cola has been fighting for years because of the shape that they have on their logos for years, and they will bring it in their bottles because people have tried to use similar logos in their product, uh, trying to change curves, trying to change designs, but as long as it has any resemblance to the Coca-Cola product, Coca-Cola has gone back and tried to sue, and they have won. They have been able to defend it. And of course, there's people that have lost their trademarks, or they call them diluted the trademarks. And that is because their trademarks are not properly configured and not defended solidly, or they don't have a clear, defined brand within the company itself. If it's too obscure, too narrow, people will go after it and try to uh, take it away from you. And it's what it has happened. The next topic we have is information systems and intellectual property. Because it's information systems, that means we have access to a great amount of property that is intellectual in nature, whether it's owned by a company or it's owned by us or by peers or by the consumer at large. Then people is applying for patents to protect this data. So the fact that so many people are applying, the government is forced to make changes and had make different definitions and different changes to try to enforce copyright protection in digital technologies that have also impacted us. One of the most common is privacy. What is privacy? It's many definitions. For our purpose, is the ability to control information about oneself. Our privacy, consumer privacy. So it's a term that can be very generic and at the same time has to be taken into consideration because for the terms of information systems, many definitions apply, but only one is us for the purpose of us. Control information about oneself. The faster they grow the systems, the more prevalent the systems become, the bigger they are, the less or the more likely information will be eroding intellectual property and the amount of privacy available. When you are working with data, One of the items that shows up or is defined is personal identifiable information, or PII. PII, or personal identifiable information, uh, is specific information that belongs to a person that can at one point or another help in the identification of the person, even if the person is trying to maintain anonymity or maintain privacy. Some of these include the name, social security numbers, date of birth, place of birth, mother's maiden name, biometric records, fingerprints, face, etc., medical records, educational records, financial information, employee information. It is not illegal to collect personal identifiable information. It has been left up to agencies, to an organizations, to minimize the use and collection of personal identifiable information. And you starting to see trends where social securities are no longer used, where date of births are not listed in total, only part of it, where biometric records are totally separate and not being allowed to be part of it. Medical records are not being kept in the same location. Educational records. So things are being disaggregated from these big banks of information. So it's not all to minimize the amount of personal identifiable information that can be used or collected in a store or in a business. And of course, if an organization doesn't protect this personal identifiable information, then there is privacy, lawsuits, penalties, so on and so forth. We see information like this every day being accessed. We see it on the news all the time where people is dumping information, where people is being exposed. So it is very prevalent out there. So we can only hope that companies take the step forward to continue and to try to protect our personal identifiable information. Try not to aggregate information like this so it can be used not against us, but if it needs to be used, it can be used in the proper manner. There is a term called non-obvious relationship awareness, or NORA. And it's basically saying NORA is the process of collecting large quantity of a variety of information to create profiles on people. The first time it was used was casinos, because casinos were trying to create profiles on cheaters, people that were going to the casinos to make money on weaknesses or wherever they find. Now, NORA is utilized by governments, agencies, private organizations, and is big business. Everywhere we go, there is information being collected about us. If one company is not maintaining it, another one is collecting it, eventually end up in large repositories being used. Let's see something in here. NORA. This is a sample of how individual profile is being collected by organizations, by groups, by governments, businesses, so on and so forth. You will say the government is collecting individual profiles, and it can use all these sources. If you go to a store, you may find this principle being applied to you because they're using security cameras. They're checking mobile data. They using your social uh, life. If they use your commercial transactions, they use your credit reports, and they build information on that. It may not be as best, but it's going to be part of it. If you apply for credit, for a credit card, a lot of this information becomes part of that because they begin sharing information with one another to collect bigger and bigger sets of data. Eventually it gets to be the government, the one is collecting a lot of this information on all of us. The Children's Online Protection, Privacy Protection, or COPA, it's been originally designed to protect children. The problem in here is asking to let companies make a good faith effort to determine the age of those accessing the website. And users under 13 years old must obtain parental consent. We know as parents, as adults, that companies are trying to market as much as they can to children. Facebook is one example. They were trying to market something for children. Instagram is doing the same thing. They're trying to build something that only children under a certain age can access. Why? I always said it, and I always will say it. The responsibility in this case belongs to the parents. They're the ones who must make the good faith effort to find out where their kids are online or not. Where are they accessing that information? What kind of accessing systems are you giving them to? Giving them ages doesn't do any good. We have seen it over and over again. These youngsters are more savvy than many parents, and they bypass any system that you want to give them. It is the parent, it is the home that has to be taking care of the accessibility that you give a child when they go online. But if you let them go online, there is no guarantee that this is being enforced and is being kept private, because you get to see it all the time when every time your child or children go into a site and it begins collecting data on it. Data as simple as they went to a website and they check on dolls, or they check on movies, or they check on toys, immediately begins collecting information on who's doing what. Okay, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. Well, FERPA is a law that is designed to protect the privacy of the student and education records. You as a parent have the right to their child information until the children reach ages of either age of consent, 18 years of age, or begin attending school beyond the high school level. At that point, control is given to the child. The original set of information was designed not to be exclusively for internet information. It's designed for all information being collected on the students, and how companies could be at higher risk of disclosing this information because of the advent of digital technologies. Whether we like it or not, children are getting exposed to this kind of stuff. So, what are the future trends on information systems? In the previous section, we saw items as to what is the internet use, the distribution around the world, so on and so forth. Let me share this again. If you remember, we were at this site last time and we were looking at information. And this one is specifically talking about the internet users and their distribution around the world in 2021. So this is very, very accurate information, the latest information. And one of the interesting things that happened to this is because of the advent of COVID-19, a lot of people were locked up in their homes and their locations all the time. So the global reach of technology, especially the internet, has been huge according to the different regions of the world, with Asia taking 53.4% of the internet use. And as you can see here, different breakdowns. We saw this chart last week by population. 4 billion people, 1 billion people. That's why they have 54% of the population of the world accessing the internet, or 54% of the population of the world is there. 2 billion of them, or 50 over 63%, were actually using the internet. With those kind of numbers compared to the rest of the world, that's why you have this kind of breakdown. It's population concentration. If you would actually break down per capita income and so on and so forth, the numbers will change quite a bit. This is the same chart that the book is showing. Although the book is showing it as of 2019, this is the 2021 book chart of the same chart that appears in the book. On page 283 of the book. And again, it shows Asia as the biggest one, followed by Europe, Africa, Latin America, North America, the Middle East, Oceania, and Australia. Again, the biggest use is based because of populations. This is what I was trying to get at. Yes, you got 2 billion people using it, but in North America, by geographic location and penetration, the number of people actually accessing the information, the largest number happened in North America, United States and Canada, followed by Europe, Latin America, the Middle East. Asia becomes 63.8%. Africa is 43.2%. So you can see that because of penetration and actual breakdown of populations, the numbers reverse. Industrialized countries, North America, Europe, Latin America will have the majority of the people using the internet. All right. Social media the new phenomenon that has swept the world, says that as of April 2018, there were about 2.18 billion Facebook users. So, based on this information that we have in here, you can see that India has actually the largest, this is as of January of 2021, not the books, June of 2017. As of January of 2021, India has 320 million users of Facebook, or audiences, if you may. United States 190, Indonesia 140, Brazil 130, Mexico 93, so on and so forth. $290 million users of Facebook in India alone, the leading country in terms of Facebook audience size. So even though India has 320 million users, if you were to add United States, Indonesia, Brazil, or Mexico, you're going to have about the same. But if you were to add United States, Brazil, and Mexico, that's 190 plus 130 plus 93, you got almost the same amount of people that India. All we're going is geographical areas. Still, because the country of India has such a large number of population and their penetration, the technology penetration is so large, then you get to see why all these people are actually using it. It goes back down as to Myanmar, 27 million people. Nigeria, Germany, Italy, Argentina, France, Colombia, Turkey. A lot of people depending on this type of use. So these technologies, the social media technologies, and we are not including uh, Instagram, TikTok, or any other these things that are out there. They're probably combined with these things will make it a greater amount of social interaction and trends in information systems. That's why this is such a big phenomenon, because so many people are starting to use it. So many people continue to use it. So many people depend on this social media to get their information. This is something that should be of concern to people, because you've been hearing all along the issue with misinformation and fake news. If one person managed to put bad information onto a site like Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, bad or indifferent, that set of information get to be seen by millions of people. It is going to influence and is going to make the decision-making capability of people change for good or bad. The question that one must ask is, these trends in information systems, What is the accountability of these social services, of these social systems? Are they responsible for something? Are they held accountable for anything that they're doing or allowing to happen? They say they police themselves, and you have seen what you have seen in the news, uh, regardless of what political affiliation you've seen, belong, or participate on, you've seen the trends that are happening in it. If these groups don't take responsibility for the social content that allowed to happen on it, we are going to be in a big set of problems later on. People are no longer making decisions based on knowledge, instruction, work. They're making decisions or what a video said on TikTok or what a snippet said on Instagram or a set of news supposedly quote unquote said on Facebook. This is bad because people are no longer taking responsibility, nor the companies, nor the people. People should be responsible for themselves as far as seeking information and verifying information. Companies should be responsible for maintaining, clarifying, and making sure that what is being posted is correct and accurate. So this is something that is going to be with us for a very long time. Information systems and the future trends also comes up on personal technologies as a trend. Now we have the capabilities of making a lot of changes to everything that we use. As simple as a background application, as simple as ringtone on a telephone. The manufacturers, the producers of devices are making sure that everything is tailored to the individual. It's great because that's what they're building around their brand. If Apple is able to produce a phone that can have different colors, cases available for you to change back and forth according to your mood, or if you as a user want to buy a specific set of phone because of color, capacity, so on and so forth, that is becoming a personal choice. Therefore, the information trend, these information systems are now catered towards individuals. We already see systems, devices that are matched to our personal preference, which is based on information collected about us. As simple as going to Amazon and shopping around, and Amazon learning what your taste and likes are. Next time you go back, the system is offering you items based on preferences that you have seen in the past or you have chosen in the past because they're collecting where we go. That information is resolved because if you notice sometimes when you go into Amazon and you shop around in there and then you go to Facebook, same kind of collected information is appearing on your Facebook screen or Home Depot or Lowe's. All this information is appearing now as an item that supposedly we want and we're interested in seeing. That's why personal information, personal items are becoming something that is the trend on information technology. The next item that they have as a future trend is wearable technology. Wearable technology. What is the best of wearable technology today? We have phones, we have telephones, we have watches, we have all sorts of different sets of information that are available to you and to me every single time that we're looking to look at information. I'm showing you right now the CNET screen. CNET is a net magazine, it's an internet magazine of technology where they're showing some of the most common items that people want to wear or use on a daily basis for 2021. And they start with watches, for example. Wearable technology. Many of you have it, many of you use it. Now, Apple telephone watches are coming into the point that you have uh, a lot more information available on a cellular telephone that you do on many personal computers, many telephones. Now they're talking about items that you use all the time, controllers, earbuds, uh, so on and so forth. So personal technology, wearable technology, items that are everyday use that have become the latest trend in the world is now part of what information systems is bringing to us. What we use all the time, how do we use it, what do we use it for, why bother carrying glasses, case for glasses and headphones when you have one thing to do both. Amazon Echo Frame gives you music from and Alex wherever you are. This is incredible. Mics, so on and so forth. Technology is incredible, and the step that we have nowadays on wearable technology is palpable and seen everywhere we are. Mobile technology, of course, everybody knows about mobile technology. Our telephones have become the most common way of communicating nowadays, day, nights, in between, at work, on transportation, auto transportation, walking. And we are to the point that people is choosing more mobile device over the desktop device. The laptop is being replaced by the tablet or the larger size phone. The application use is only back to the laptop or to the desktop when it requires larger screens or larger capacities. Even at that, it has been noticed that a lot of people prefer still to have the laptop, which is a mobile item, to handle large amounts of data that they cannot handle on the phone because of the implication of what it has. Smartphones are used today more than any other technology. Collaborative technology, the best example, your map application. Waze or uh, Google Maps. It's important to say we're collectible, collaborative technology because now you can participate on the map. You can interject yourself onto the map and post information. Many times you have seen it if you use Google Maps or if you use Waze mapping application, where you can see there is accidents, where there is police, where there is slowdowns. And if nobody's posted, but you're the first one to see it, you can actually embed it onto the application as it happens. Next time anybody that is going by, they're gonna see the same screen and they're gonna say, oh, Something's happening in here. There is an accident. There is a slowdown. There is a police officer. The system is now asking you, is the police still there? Is the broken down car still there? Is the road slowed down already? Are there cameras on that light? Or telling you, be careful, slow down. There are cameras on that light. So that's the most common item that is being seen today on collaborative technology. Printable technology, the most notable example is the 3D printer. You can actually print a house. The Marine Corps is using 3D printers to make houses. They can actually plot the design. They connect the system to a specific rig for delivery of concrete and cement, and they can actually let the printer do the work to build a house, an actual structure. Of course, 3D printers become to be the sought out item to build and create hard to find or expensive parts that you cannot find. It's mentioned the creator of prosthetic legs, an ear that can be impacted with technology that can be better than what we have today. The U.S. Armed Forces today also uses 3D printers to create parts for airplanes. Technology that is printable is the latest rage, is something that is discarded by people, but at the same time is a very, very nice item to have, is the solution to many issues that if people has the capacity, they can bring it up to developing countries and use it. Medical models is a great application of this, especially in orthopedics and transplant surgery. And they can recreate a lot of information that we cannot see or have access to. They have called printable technology the maker technology. 3D printer is called the maker movement because it's a bunch of builders who are using open source methodology and latest technology to bring manufacture, manufacturing in its traditional context. So they're building, they're creating without having to have assembly lines or anything of that nature because it's so much easier to build. Findable technology, a big trend on information systems. You can find anything you want because, as the Internet of Things said, we refer to devices that have been embedded into a variety of objects like lamps, appliances, vehicles, light bulbs, toys, thermostats, so on and so forth. So findable technology, these small embedded objects are providing and sending data. We are receiving it. We are collecting information. And we are making use of that new information that we're collecting on this embedded technology and everything. Point in case, the sample that is being brought up is thermostats. You can put a new thermostat, a new type of thermostat on your house, and that thermostat will be able to regulate temperature, and you can set it up and change it and adjust it from your personal telephone. without you having to be present. The other item that is very interesting to see today, findable technology, is when insurance companies come back and tell you that they would like to put this gadget on your car to track your riding habits, because this way they evaluate you and they can provide better rates or higher rates depending on what you do. So as technology evolves, more technology is increased, more information is available, and when information is available, it's findable. When it's findable, it can be acted on it. One more set of information that is created by this new trends on information system is autonomous technologies, especially UAVs, which today are represented a lot with drones, self-driving cars, or little robots, nanobots. They are being introduced to collect data, to work on data, to improve, to encompass many different technologies into one and provide the best possible solution to systems and to problems that are found. The use of drones has come to age in which the drone, for example, has now been used to survey land and locations that used to take weeks, if not months, to do. It's more accurate, it's faster, and information is available nearly immediately. Depending on the drone you use, you get information immediately or you have to download it. But if, again, even if you use the drone to survey data, you get that information in a more accurate way. The self-driving car, for example, that's the latest technology that's coming out, in which their experimentation of people not having to drive a car, but the car can do everything for you. I don't know how I feel about a self-driving car, but I suppose it has its benefits, especially safety, if that's what it's claiming to be. Secure technologies, digital technologies are being tested every day, because as technology moves forward, as technology increases, there is always somebody trying to exert more and more pressure on that technology to get in it. When more people are trying to get in it, companies are bound to develop different and better systems to come up with better encryption, better security. So information systems are growing, so is security, although sometimes it's not as fast as the information system development, because informations are changing so fast, so rapidly, that it's almost impossible for technologies to keep up. But secure technologies is one of the most important aspects of information systems and the future trends that are encountering. So as technologies move forward, we'll be challenged by new capabilities, innovation that amazes and disgusts us. Many times technologies come with powers that make us think twice. What are we looking? What are we doing? What are we seeing? Ethics come into place, because the individual ethics of the individual, the company, come into place to hopefully respect each other, respect the data, respect the company, everything that we are working with. We need to be aware of all these challenges in order to become ready and prepare for them. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is the end of our chapter. I'm going to stop recording at this point.